There are 4 options that the major tea companies use to package their tea, and a sleeper 5th that I'm planning to use in my own sweet tea company, named Sweetie Veety. Hi there! My name is Richard Shaw. I am an engineer, and I have been moonlighting as a personal trainer / nutritionist for a very, very long time, since I was about 14 years old. And I'm currently working on bringing a sweet tea to the market that is very healthy for you, called Sweetie Veety, the original healthy sweet tea. My main goal with this project, and the project before that, was to create a tasty product that wasn't just taste good, but actually good for your body. Something that brought a net benefit to your health when you consumed it, rather than, oh, it's either health washed and not really good for you, or it's just straight up bad for you, which you'd be surprised a lot of health products nowadays unfortunately are, which is just a shame, to be quite honest. The product had to be good for you. Because of this, I went on a deep dive to figure out what kind of packaging is the best for the human body. And I'm here to share my results with you. I will not be discussing synthetic or plastic tea bags today. They are pretty bad for us, at least that's what research suggests right now, and I don't think that's going to change. I personally do not think they should ethically be used anymore. That being said, here's some of my research on this deep dive that I conducted. Number 1, first on our list is the standard kind of paper tea bags, aka cellulose tea bags. They're typically made from plant-based materials like wood pulp, aka cellulose, or apica fiber. This sounds good, right? Like, I thought it was a great thing when I first heard about it. Keyword, at first. I mean, after all, wood fibers and cellulose is biodegradable, or at least sounds biodegradable, right? Like, it has no plastic in it, right? The thing is, the bag itself can actually be a pretty decent material, but many bags still contain propylene, which is a plastic. Polypropylene, to be exact. Polypropylene is the stuff that they actually seal the bags with. So like the crimping on top that they use to heat seal it together, yeah, that's plastic. So you have all this wood, and the very thing that's holding the bag together is just this really unhealthy plastic. And unfortunately, it's not just like a smidge of plastic either. There's actually been a ton of research that's come out in the past 5 years that says that these tea bags contain a ton of plastics. How much? Well, to quote a study, steeping a single plastic tea bag at brewing temperature, which is 95 degrees Celsius, releases approximately 11.6 billion microplastics and 3.1 billion nanoplastics into a single cup of the beverage. And of course, it goes without saying, these microplastics are exceptionally terrible for you. Microplastics is one of our generation's biggest problems, actually. They're found everywhere, in everybody, in anything. And they've been linked to goodies like inflammation, cell damage, and issues with immune, digestive, and reproductive systems. Yay! The hype for the past several years has been on forever chemicals. So like the stuff that we have on our nonstick pans, basically, like PFAS or whatever. And the US has made minor adjustments to try and cope with that. It's the same principle with these microplastics. Once you have them, they're very difficult to get rid of. Not to mention, but plastics and heat make for a terrible combination, because whenever plastic warms up, it starts leaching out. Like, it leaks. The plastic melts. And then those tiny little plastics melt into your food and into whatever the heck you're drinking. And the thing is, our bodies haven't really coped with this. They don't know how to get rid of it. Fun fact, recently sauna visits have been proven to remove microplastics from the body because we kind of sweat them out. So the way to think about it is basically heat can both add and remove microplastics from your body. Yay! Now, the cellulose tea bags that don't use plastic aren't necessarily good for you. Like, just because they don't use that polypropylene doesn't mean it's okay. It still might not even be plastic free. And in my personal experience, if you use a cheap cellulose tea bag, they break really easy and are super flimsy. Look, there's nothing worse than a tea bag busting and then having all of that tea, those tea leaves come out, especially if it's a low quality tea and it's like really shredded up. The funny thing is, they actually call that tea soup in tea culture whenever you have the water infused with the tea leaves. Point is, I want tea, not leaf soup, and I don't want a bag that breaks. Number 2, PLA, aka polylactic acid tea bags. Now, PLA is something known as a bioplastic. A bioplastic is a plastic made from renewable, so like typically regrowable or growable sources, such as cornstarch, sugarcane, or vegetable fats. So it's still a plastic just made from natural sources. This is one of the biggest instances of health washing. The thing is, just because bioplastics come from natural sources doesn't mean they should be consumed. I mean, if PLA sounds familiar to you, that's because it's used in printer spool cartridges for 3D printers. Like, it's literally 3D printer filament. Now, there's also concrete evidence suggesting why we shouldn't be doing this. A rather recent 2025 study found out the following with PLA microplastics. The title is quite literally, Oral Exposure to PLA Microplastics Induces Time-Dependent Nanotoxicity via the Gut-Liver Axis, which basically means that PLA microplastics are toxic to your digestive and circulatory systems. Another joyful excerpt from the article. Forefront studies have revealed that incomplete degradation of PLA microplastics would cause neurotoxicity in mice, and the oligomer released from it would trigger acute inflammation. So it's toxic for your brain, and it basically instructs your body to fight its own cells. Double yay. So in tea form, they're actually usually those see-through plastic tea bag pyramids. Like, they're really cute, and a lot of manufacturers have switched to those instead of the classic plastic ones that we use. But either way, those pyramids are kind of a scam because it's either that bioplastic made out of PLA or something adjacent, or actual plastic. So it's a lose-lose situation. At the end of the day, polylactic acid isn't a huge improvement on standard microplastics. It's just newer, and it kind of has a bit of the shiny object syndrome, and we haven't really studied it as much, so we're giving it a bit too much faith, where it's kind of undeserved. It could actually be even worse than standard plastics because, well, we just don't have enough data yet. Number 3, cotton tea bags. Okay, this is a pretty good one. Cotton is a soft, fluffy, stable fiber that grows in a protective case around the seeds of the cotton plants. The fiber is almost pure cellulose, kind of like we discussed for the first tea bag, and can contain minor percentages of waxes, fats, pectins, and water. Cotton itself is not unhealthy because of the cellulose. That should be firmly stated. Cellulose is in pretty much every plant that I know of. In fact, broccoli contains cellulose, as do all plants. And broccoli is probably one of the healthiest veggies that you can have. But you have to watch out for synthetic versions of cotton. During my ice cream project, I worked on a very healthy ice cream prior to this sweet tea. I researched carboxymethyl cellulose, aka CMC powder. This is a powder that's kind of chemically taken or derived from cellulose. Now, CMC powder is like a superhero for ice cream. It gives it incredible texture, incredible mouthfeel, and overall, it works wonders on the damn thing. I don't remember everything about it, but it's fantastic. I would even say it makes ice cream ice cream. The problem with it is that it's been linked to an increased risk of colon cancer due to gut inflammation. So, bonus tip, just watch out for CMC powder as an ingredient and run from it. And circling back, this also means if you see somebody selling synthetic cotton, in particular synthetic cotton tea bags, don't be scared to run away. Like, get on the horse and ride away. Get in the car, drive away. It could be a harmful derivative as well. That being said, standard cotton tea bags are actually pretty good. They're a way better option than most. Honestly, the biggest issue with cotton tea bags is they're just straight up very expensive. Cotton tea bags need to be hand-packed and are actually extremely expensive. So it's honestly cost prohibitive for a lot of these big companies, at least as of now. Also, the thing is, the people working in these companies have little incentive to use cotton. It's not like cotton adds a ton of antioxidants and makes the tea like 10 times healthier. I mean, it's just, it takes the tea storage method from a negative to a neutral. It's not a positive. It just takes it to a neutral maybe. You can actually buy muslin cotton bags online for your tea, and you just hand fill them for home use. But the truth is, unless if there's like an industry-wide switch where economies of scale really help tea production, it's gonna be difficult for companies to afford them. And that means they probably won't be the default tea material. For me personally, my product will already be rather expensive, but I didn't want it to be cost prohibitive. I went with the Sleeper Fifth, which I'm actually really happy about. Number 4, loose leaf tea. Okay, this is probably like king of the hill right here. Loose leaf tea is probably the best way to avoid microplastics. You just kind of buy bulk and go from there. You can use like one of those teapots, you can use a fancy strainer. It's pretty good, but it just requires a bit of a dedicated setup because it's not overly convenient. The problem with loose leaf tea is it's pretty inconvenient. You could break out the scale and measure out exactly how much you want every single time, but sometimes it's just honestly is pretty fun to throw as many tea leaves into the pot as you can and then brew the hell out of it. You can also buy a metal strainer and just be smarter than me. Also get like a teapot or something. The thing is, even if you add too many tea leaves or you overbrew the tea, it'll still be way healthier than the previous options that we listed, aside from like the cotton tea bags, of course. After all, you're just brewing the tea, not brewing the tea with microplastics or microbioplastics. You just have to make sure that you store the tea correctly. If tea leaves get exposed to water, I mean, it's like any stored food, it could start molding, bacteria can start growing on it. It could just get ruined pretty easily if you're not very careful with storage and transportation of it. Speaking of transportation, it's not as easy to bring along with you as like the individually packed tea bags because, well, I mean, it's loose leaf. You can bring it in like a little Ziploc baggie, which is certainly cool, but it doesn't have any pizzazz, any panache, no presentation. So anyway, that's a little something to keep in mind because you may have to get more exotic with your actual tea gifting choices if you're gonna give it to somebody. And I know this is kind of auxiliary and bonus, but I'd like to help you out. Like if you are looking for a present for somebody, tea resin is a pretty good start. That stuff is pretty cool. There are like tea bricks. Loose leaf tea is okay, but you have to get some really nicely packaged ones. But yeah, those are like 3 options that you can give to people. So just a little something to help you out. Okay, number 5, the hidden sleeper that is personally my favorite as of this moment. That could change, but this is personally my favorite. It is not just my favorite, but it is a very unusual pick. Mylar bags and pouches. Mylar bags are basically aluminum foil, wait for it, that has been bonded to PET plastic. I can guess what you're thinking. Richard, we just spoke about microplastics and bioplastics and how they're all terrible for you for the past how many minutes? What? And you're completely right. The negative health aspects of microplastics getting in your food still apply if they get in your food, if they get in your water, if they get in your tea. Oh, that's good. Cheers. To give you my opening statement, what I found with food grade Mylar is they're BPA free, which is a pretty good start. Also, Mylar bags don't break down and leach harmful chemicals if they are in a cool, dark, and dry storage setting. What really matters is making sure not to expose the bag to heat, which should only happen when you're actually sealing the bag itself. Now, sealing these bags does involve some heat, and the heat does release some particles. However, it's in my personal opinion, I personally believe that releasing microplastic particles directly into water is far worse than sealing a bag and releasing a smaller amount of microplastic particles into the air. Only a few of those released particles would actually land on a tea leaf. Compare that to with all of the particles being caught in the water when the plastic melts in the water. It's like a fly trap for microplastics. Every last bit of plastic seeps into the water and is caught immediately. It can't go anywhere. And then you, or somebody you love, drinks every last drop of the tea. Now, you should also know there's a concern of these bags breaking down over a long time, especially when they're stored improperly, which is basically when you're exposing it to UV light, warmth, or wetness. But as long as that doesn't happen often or long enough for it to have a noticeable effect, there should be very, very, very little exposure to unwanted particles. More importantly, we're also not directly exposing the bag to heat, let alone burning the bag. We're not putting the plastic in the hot water and letting the plastic particles marinate and dissolve in the tea. We're not even exposing the packaging to water. You basically tear open the packaging, whoop, and then you pour in whatever the heck you have packaged in there into your hot water. In exchange for all this, you get a watertight seal. That makes your tea portable and not at a mold risk. That means it's really easy to take camping, trips overseas, handing out as presents, giving a friend, giving a family member pouch if possible. It's pretty much anywhere without worries. I put the script and these sources for the video actually in the description as well. So please feel free to read through that if you would like as well. Thank you very much for listening and take care. May you be healthy. If you're interested in my future product of the original healthy sweet tea, please leave a comment. Say you want to try some. I can get in contact with you and send it your way. You just have to give it a go. Tell me if you like it or not. And I mean, if you like it that much, then please write a cool review. That'd be awesome.